What you're about to hear isn't just shocking, it's deeply unsettling. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a terrifying pattern that could very well reach you. Ordinary people living their lives suddenly caught in a web of violence and indifference. In Donald Trump's America, it's not just about border control anymore. It's about citizens like you becoming targets. Take Miramar Martinez. She was simply driving when ICE agents decided to turn her life into a nightmare. Shot multiple times, left to bleed out, and then hauled off to jail, despite being critically injured. And this isn't an outlier. This is the new normal, and it's spreading fast. Here's the chilling truth. What happened to her could happen to anyone. But what if I told you that this isn't just about law enforcement? There's something bigger at play, something they don't want you to realize. Stick with us to understand why this story changes everything and how it reveals the dark side of the system we live under. What's happening here isn't an accident. It's not just a one-off mistake. It's a part of something far larger. What started as a government policy has quickly evolved into a dangerous, violent reality that could impact anyone. Miramar Martinez's experience isn't just about a single woman's ordeal. It's a wake-up call for everyone. Picture this. A woman shot, bleeding in the streets, left to die. And why? Because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and because the system has created a clear divide between us and them. But ask yourself this: who are they? Really? And why is it that those in power are so quick to justify violence against ordinary citizens? This isn't a one-time failure. It's a disturbing trend, one that's shaping the way authorities operate, especially under the direction of the Trump administration. This isn't just a border issue. This is about power, control, and a system that's rapidly losing touch with its own citizens. And it doesn't end with one attack. This is just the beginning. You might be thinking, this can't be real. Surely it's a fluke. But what if I told you that Miramar Martinez's story is not a one-off incident, that it's part of something much darker? Let's break this down. She wasn't just injured. She was nearly killed. And even after being shot multiple times, bleeding out and barely holding on, she was dragged out of the hospital by federal agents. Her crime? Nothing. She wasn't even charged with a single thing. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate act of violence fueled by policies put in place by the highest levels of government. Now let's pause for a moment and think about this. Why would they go so far? Why would they subject someone to this level of brutality? Notice what's missing here. No remorse, no accountability. Just an agent proudly boasting about the damage done. And Miramar? She's lucky to be alive. But here's the twist you didn't see coming. The same agents who left her bleeding didn't just let her go. They tried to cover it all up. That's right. Evidence was destroyed and the charges were mysteriously dropped, all to protect their narrative. The escalation here is impossible to ignore. What started as a single act of violence quickly reveals itself to be part of a much broader, deeply ingrained problem. Think about this. Agents who are supposed to protect us are acting like soldiers in a war zone, and the citizens caught in the crossfire, they're treated as collateral damage. Compare this to other historical moments when ordinary people were labeled as enemies simply because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is no different. The unchecked power of law enforcement has reached a dangerous new level. And what's worse, it's becoming normalized. It wasn't long ago that we would have questioned the very idea of federal agents dragging a woman out of a hospital after she'd been shot. But now, it's just another headline, another part of the daily news cycle. This is where we've arrived. And that's the real danger. When violence becomes so routine that it barely raises an eyebrow. But here's the most chilling part. The system is working exactly as it's designed. This isn't an anomaly. It's the outcome of a system where unchecked power is not only accepted, it's expected. What happens when you push the limits of power? Well, we've seen it. The violence against Miramar Martinez wasn't an isolated event. It's part of a disturbing pattern. And now the evidence is piling up. This isn't just about the shooting. It's about the actions that followed. The agents didn't just leave her for dead, they tried to bury the truth. When they removed the vehicle from the crime scene, they weren't protecting the public. They were protecting their own lies. They didn't want anyone to see the evidence that could expose their actions. And here's the real kicker. The charges against her, they vanished, just like that. dropped without explanation. If Miramar was truly guilty of trying to ram federal agents, would the charges have disappeared so easily? Of course not. This was the system collapsing under the weight of its own lies. This is where the story flips. This wasn't just an attack on one woman. This was an attack on the truth. And it proves something we can't ignore. When they control the narrative, when they hold all the power, they get to decide who is guilty and who isn't. But it doesn't stop there. While the agents are covering their tracks, something else is unfolding. Miramar Martinez wasn't the only victim. There's more, and it's escalating fast. First, there's the destruction of evidence, the car removed from the scene. But wait, it gets worse. The agents didn't just erase the evidence, they erased their own accountability. Then we have the federal prosecutors who seem more interested in bearing the case than seeking justice. Charges dropped, but no apology, no recognition of the pain caused. Nothing. Next, we have the media spin. A woman shot, nearly killed, and yet somehow she's the one being labeled a criminal. Not once did they ask the simple question, why were the shots fired in the first place? Why was she targeted? Why is no one questioning the system that allows this to happen again and again? And now the icing on the cake, Miramar Martinez's life turned upside down, not by any fault of her own, but by a system that would rather silence victims than face the truth. What happens if this continues? If these attacks keep escalating, if these cover-ups go unchallenged, what does it mean for all of us? Now let's shift focus, because this isn't just a story about policies or politics. It's about real people, people like you and me, whose lives are being shattered. You heard what happened to Miramar Martinez, but this isn't just her story. It's a story that could unfold in any community to any citizen. What if you were the one driving to work or taking your kids to school or simply running errands? What if you got caught in a situation where an agent, already on edge, decided you were a threat? You could be shot, left bleeding on the street with no explanation, no charges, just the cold indifference of a system that's gone rogue. This isn't a political point. This is about everyday safety, because it could happen to anyone. Miramar wasn't a criminal. She was an educator, a member of her community, and she nearly paid the ultimate price for it. If this feels familiar, say so in the comments. We need to recognize how easily the line between civilian and suspect is being erased. But let's not get lost in the outrage. Let's take a step back and look at the mechanism behind all of this, the system that allows these actions to take place again and again. It's not just about a few bad agents. This is a system built on leverage, fear, and spectacle. The policies that put these agents in power were crafted in a way that makes their actions almost inevitable. The rhetoric surrounding border security isn't just about controlling immigration. It's about creating a divide, a them versus us mentality that justifies violence. The system feeds off of fear, and fear is a powerful tool when it comes to controlling the narrative. And that's the heart of the issue. The system isn't just about enforcing laws, it's about maintaining control. It's about convincing you that anyone who challenges authority, anyone who steps out of line, is the enemy. The problem isn't just with the actions of a few agents, it's with the way power is used to maintain this divide. This is bigger than a single incident. It's a system that turns ordinary people into targets and expects no consequences. So where does this leave us? The system we've been watching unfold isn't just broken, it's shifting and fast. And as the power dynamics continue to change, there are two possible paths we could be heading down. First, we could see more of the same, more violence, more cover-ups, and more people like Miramar Martinez who get caught in the crossfire. With no accountability, nothing is stopping the system from continuing to escalate. If that happens, we might be looking at a future where it becomes normal for everyday citizens to be treated like criminals by the very people meant to protect them. But there's another path. What if this moment sparks a real change? What if people start waking up to the fact that these policies are not just damaging, they're dangerous? If the public demands accountability, if the system is forced to answer for its actions, things could shift. But right now, that future is still uncertain. Momentum is building, but it's not clear whether the system will be reformed or continue to spiral out of control. And that's the key question. Which direction will we go? And who will make that decision? In the end, it all comes down to one truth. The system we've been witnessing isn't designed to protect you. It's designed to protect itself. What happened to Miramar Martinez wasn't an accident, and it wasn't just a failure of a few agents. It was a direct consequence of a system that values control over justice. This story isn't over. It's only just begun. The real question is, how long can this continue before something breaks? If the system won't change, we will. And that starts with awareness, accountability, and action. So here's the takeaway. If you want to understand where this is going, follow the momentum. Follow the stories that are starting to surface and ask yourself, who are the real criminals here? If you want to stay ahead of the story, if you want the truth before it's buried, make sure to subscribe. We'll be following every move, every detail. Don't miss what comes next.